because the world is not yet in a state that will allow this. The concept of enlightenment is a process. It is a continuous process of deeper levels of awakening or becoming conscious of that which is hidden from our awareness. But I assume your question relates to, why are so few women who have reached deep levels of enlightenment seen in this world? For enlightenment or awakening to occur and deepen, a person must let go of the constraints one has formed in their physical life. These constraints or conditioning that has been taught from one's family and society restricts the spiritual part of oneself, soul, to evolve and perform its purpose in this life. The desire and need of one's soul is immensely powerful and is the driving force of our thoughts, actions, feelings, etc. To let go of these constraints is also known as dissolving one's ego. This is extremely painful and especially at deeper levels. It is painful as the spiritual nature of oneself greatly contradicts the way the vast part of humanity live in this world. Humanity lives to a high level of self-serving or egoist ways. But spiritual is compassion and empathy and non-materialistic. So as you awaken, you see and feel this contradiction and you understand the falseness of this physical life and the emptiness of it all. Due to the immense power of the soul, pushing oneself to align spiritually, you are then forced to let go of how you had been taught to live and what you thought it was to be successful and happy in this world. This change is driven by profound unseen energy, and it is from this that the collective consciousness changes, making societal or nation changes. So in the same way, the current world we live in has been for a very long time male-dominated. This type of conditioning and its long endurance is a deeply ingrained concept. You see, the base of humanity is spiritual. Whether we are born into this physical life as male or female, we have a spiritual base that is neither male or female. The base of all humanity is the same. So all of humanity, male or female, have the same immense desires and needs but are of a spiritual nature. Below is very important. Humanity's spiritual evolvement is limited as the physical world is not yet in alignment with the spiritual nature of ourselves. The world must learn that the physical male and female are as strong as one another, but they have different attributes. The female is usually more emotional and closer to awakening. The male is more logical and is action-orientated. But male and female need one another to awaken. The divine feminine has had little chance to awaken deeply, but neither has the divine male. Let me explain. The female aspect holds the power to awaken the male with the power of her spiritual energy she contains within and is naturally more connected to. Once the divine male awakens from the presence of the female energy, then he will use his strong logic and action skills to use the newfound knowledge to help humanity. The process continues like this as they work together, but all unseen. This is not done between a male and female in a marriage as such. This is just a physical world concept. It is done through energy, through experiences, through connections with people, through giving to others, through empathy, etc., etc. But if the world at large is dominated by men, this will block the female from revealing deeper levels of her energy. This occurs as the male domination is ego-related and self-serving. This creates a blockage for the female spiritual energy to radiate. So you see, many of the male spiritual leaders have still to deepen their awakening, as they are often using what would seem to be an advantage, that a male is more powerful and therefore their knowledge must be very deep. But this is in fact a great disadvantage, as it is a block to deepening further. So due to societal constructs, it will seem that men are more deeply awakened and therefore have a larger presence, but in fact both male and female are equally awakened or enlightened in this world. Well, enlightened people, whatever gender, is supposed to be rare to begin with, right? I want to say that for enlightenment, all gender are equal, but then, thinking again. If I was born as a female, can I reach the same spiritual height? The answer is, I'm not sure, probably not, and I think it would be very hard for me. It is like so not because of the gender actually, but because the way our society conditioned and treat female, in a way that in my opinion heavily hindered spiritual development. For example, in most place that I know, female being conditioned to depend on male. This conditioning are done in a very early of childhood and etched very deep into their subconsciousness. In marriage, it is very rare for female to have an equal footing, and for those who are not married usually have some deep problem that cause it. On career, female has to go an extra miles if they want to have a male positions. The society almost treat female like an object, they become the part of pride for male. This discrimination run very deep, so deep that most of us can barely feel the discrimination. If we talk about spiritual potentiality, if the society or treat female fairly and stop to conditioning them, female are 100 times or even more easily to get enlightened. They are a very strong being, far more intelligent compared to male, far more sensitive, very perceptive and very flexible to shape. Every enlightened person will and must have a female quality in them. You can get enlightened without masculine quality, by totally become the embodiment of feminism, but you can't never get enlightened if you don't have a feminine aspect. Without feminine aspect, at best a male can only become philosopher or a wise man. It is very sad, for me to see human history in the past 2000 years how the world being very unfair toward female. In the past 100 years, things start getting better, I hope we all go to the right direction. Because enlightened individuals are often shunned and reviled by society, see also, Jesus getting crucified, Muhammad getting almost stoned to death, etc., and women have an extra premium dose of vile hailed towards them due to good old sexism. A woman thinking to be more spiritually advanced than your average man? Outrageous. Consequently, the combination of having a vagina, plus being enlightened, has historically been a very risky one with a very high chance of death by an angry mob. Pictured above, people calmly expressing their disagreement with a possibly enlightened female French national hero. So we needed to devise entire supporting social structures such as monasteries, nuns, and religious orders in order to offer a physically safe space for those uppity women who had the temerity to search for their own enlightenment. That meant that enlightened women have existed in all ages, but they have often been secluded in convents and most of them have chosen to remain hidden from the public view. That being said, like in the old Mushkil Gusa tale, treasures can't be hidden for too long, and many women have attained enlightenment and become famous spiritual masters themselves due to their words and deeds. Pictured above, Santa Teresa being visited by the Holy Spirit, which protected her from her fellow not-so-enlightened members of the Inquisition. Catholic nun Santa Teresa de Jesus or Muslim Sufi Saint Rabia al-Adawiya are two examples of women perfectly capable of attaining enlightenment and reaching a spiritual level way above the common man. Pictured above, Rabia al-Adawiya calmly doing housework just before giving a massive, albeit wise burn to an unsuspect neighbor or religious authority. As it often happens in other fields, these two women are probably just the very tip of the massive submerged iceberg of anonymous female spiritual masters that have stayed hidden since the dawn of time, and that only now have started to surface into the public consciousness.